First question is the concept of the ugly baby protection and why is it important in the creative process. So I said that, or basically what he was saying in the book is that they're not beautiful. They're miniature versions of the adults that they will grow up to be. It's getting to the perfect spot involves months, if not years, of work. You got to protect the babies from being judged too quickly. You got to protect the new. Basically, the concept of ugly baby is that nothing you see right away that you work on really is perfect. There's going to be trials. There's going to be problems, things you got to work through. But it's important to know that you're going for the process a year, 2 years from that point where you know the spot you're going to be at, but maybe right now it's not what you want. So that was my feeling from it. The protection, he said, tries to protect processes that are comfortable and familiar, but that don't make sense. Legal departments are famous for being overly cautious in the name of protecting their companies from possible external threats. Protection is used that says don't disrupt what is already is. That basically is what he was trying to get his point across, uh, and that's important also to um, being creative as well because sometimes when you protect things too much, you limit your growth and limit the possibilities that otherwise could have been allowed to grow. So if you don't, it's kind of like if you don't let your kid put their hand on the stove when it's hot. They're not going to learn. It's kind of like that. So you have to, give them that leeway to do that so they can grow and learn from that experience and hopefully see different viewpoints. The ugly baby that I want to share is my freshman year of college. I came from a high school of 45 kids, 10 in my total class. So I really came from a small school, and coming into a college in any capacity would have been difficult for me. And I really was in my shell of myself. I didn't want to communicate with anyone. It was hard for me. But I finally got myself to be with some basketball guys, and they allowed me to flourish. They allowed me to, be myself and support me. And it really made a better transition after the first couple of months were pretty hard for me. I come from such a small school, but now I feel like I'm definitely comfortable. So that protection kind of I wasn't allowing people to come into my life the way I should have, and it was definitely an ugly baby because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't, I had no idea, you know, at first what I really should have been, what my experience really should have been. So that definitely was an ugly baby moment for me. Number two, explain the concept of the beast. The beast represents the desire for more success after the initial success. So once you have a successful film that you made, you want to keep making more because you tasted the success of the first one. This happens often in sports. Desire and expectation start going hand in hand. Once you have a good season and establish a culture of winning, anything less than that is considered a failure, which is considered building a beast. That's what I got out of it. An example of how a beast can be a good and bad thing can relate to managers seeing a successful month of sales and wanting to do even more, but without regard of their employees. So let's just say they started selling a lot and they think that they have to keep impressing their bosses. So the general manager has to impress the president even more. But meanwhile, that general manager isn't concerned about his employees. So once you want to keep doing more sales, but you're not concerned with what the employees say and their morale and whatever they're feeling, then you're gonna be going in a spiral, and that initial success is not going to be followed up if you're not treating them right. Number three, how does Catmull explain healthy balance? Um, all consistent readers recognize the importance of balancing competing desires. They want to be heard, but they don't have to win. Push and pull between talents is what Catmull was trying to describe as what you want. You want your best talent and your best talent, not colliding, but compromising and really showing each other what type of levels they can get to. For example, if you're doing yoga in one leg in the air, motionless, balancing the ball, that would be the still movement, is what he was talking about, from dynamic to still. And dynamic would be like a spin in a football game and staying on your feet, and you'd be changed, and that can relate to a business world, like changing in rapid environments. So if you're in a sales environment, you obviously don't want a still environment. You want people to be, making plays, making that extra call, and things like that. You want a competitive environment. You don't want people just okay. So I get here at 9, I leave at 5. You know, you don't. That's not what you want. You want there to be competitiveness, and you want. Um, he also says a sunny day is when the sun wins out over the rain. So the more healthy balance and competitiveness you can have in such environment will create the best result. I feel like still environments can stay the same. Nothing happens, good or bad, but then you won't have the excitement or necessity of improving this way. That's why dynamic is the best way to go about it, which I agree with Catmull. Number 4, let's see what time we got here. All right, we gotta hurry up a little bit here. So, provide an experience in your own life that reflects a statement, and he basically was going over stories at work, methods at work, strategies at work. So mine was off the record. My basketball experience showed this. We used to have Eric Kittle, obviously, and he was the best player by far. And so my freshman through junior year, everything was tailored around him. Defense, offensively, everything was designed for him, which is exactly what we wanted because he was our best player, which makes sense. But after he graduated, our coaches didn't feel like we didn't feel like the coaches adjusted to him leaving because we felt the offense stayed the same. We were doing things as if Kittle was still here when he wasn't, and that's kind of what hurt us early in the year when we were struggling a lot because our offense was designed for a player that still wasn't here. So the resistance to change and seeing what was going on really kind of put us in a bad spot. But they eventually did change, and we eventually got it going. But in the same way, the resistance to change really caused conflict there. Share time, number 5, sorry, from chapter 8. Share time from your own life when a simple answer solution was used to explain or fix a problem. If there were competing explanations for why something occurs the way it does, you should pick the one that relies on the fewest assumptions and is thus the simplest. So I went with a story from my grocery store back home. I used to work at a grocery store that had a dining room component. I was working breakfast, and there was an issue with an order that day. It was busy that day, and instead of calling a manager over to fix it, I put in credit for a store coupon to make it less. So they came up with a meal, and it was supposed to be one price, and it wasn't. And so instead of getting a manager, which would have taken time, I just did a credit store coupon, and I made it less to what they were happy with, which was totally wrong to do. But it was good. Got it over with. They paid the right price. We moved on. The next day I come into work, they go, what was wrong with this transaction or whatever? Why was there short coupons? But there was no coupons in the jar that we're supposed to put them in. And I was like, oh, this happened or whatever. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, that's, first of all, I think that's not right. Second of all, it messes up his job. It makes his job a lot worse. So that's definitely something I learned from there. Select the final concept of your choice of one's final concept and explain why this concept resonated with me. So it's important to approach big and small problems with the same set of values and emotions. They are self-similar. It is important that we don't freak out or start blaming when some threshold, the holy cow bucket, is reached. We need to be humble enough to recognize the unforeseen things that can happen that are nobody's fault. So I said this concept resonates with me because I sometimes overreact to larger problems instead of making it a reasonable goal to overcome the problem. I also tend to get frustrated over problems that I have no control over. Things that just don't go your way and is nobody's fault, which you just have to roll with the punches. So that's really the concept that I like is that I overreact to a lot of things and being able to roll with those punches and see what the bigger picture is important. I really resonated with Catmull there. Summarize what you believe Catmull's intended message throughout chapter 9 was. I said, in your profession you will screw up, but it's about if, but when it happens. So basically, it's going to happen. You're going to mess up. How are you going to react to it? How are you going to, learn from it? So I think that was a big concept he had. Ask the tough questions. As a manager, it's important to be transparent and resonate with your employees, despite what your title says. Just because my title says president, you can still talk to that employee that just earned a job. You're not too big for that person. So once you have this whole group collectiveness, I think your business will go a lot farther. At number 8, what did you learn from the experience and how did you correct the situation? As a game manager here at CUW, they allowed me to make my decisions. So one of the decisions I made was for the concession stand. It was a cold day on Tuesday, and I brought hot chocolate out. Nobody bought it. I brought water and Gatorade out. Nobody bought it. So Thursday, I was like, nobody bought it, so why would I bring it out today? Well, that day I got 6 requests, so it must have been a little colder, but I didn't put that into perspective. So they gave me that decision to make on the concessions, and I didn't make the right decision on there. But I definitely learned from it that I need to at least have a beverage out there so I can give them some option, because hot chocolate does take a long time to do. So I definitely learned from that experience. And that is all the questions. Thank you.